Hi everyone, welcome to this pick a card reading. My name is Serafina Quepera and I'm here to give you grounded spiritual guidance. Today's message is coming from Archangel Metatron. Archangel Metatron is also known to be a seraphim, which are the highest order of angels. So sometimes Archangel Metatron is depicted with having 6 wings. He is also associated with the color gold. And if you have been seeing 1111 lately, that also indicates that you have been resonating with Archangel Metatron's energy. So right now, lots of us are going through drastic changes, and I felt like we could use some, motivation and some uplifting energy from Archangel Metatron in our transformative processes. So I channeled messages through these 3 piles for you from Archangel Metatron. So here on pile number 1, we have ancestors. And with this pile number 1 is also the quartz. Pile number 2, we have boundaries. Which is accompanied by the gold mica. And on pile number 3, we have duality, which is accompanied by the Shungite pyramid. So I'm going to ask you to intuitively choose either pile number 1, pile number 2, or pile number 3. And you can go to the timestamps below and I will see you there. Bye. Hi, pile number 1. If you chose the clear quartz, this is your reading. So I asked Archangel Metatron what the major theme was for pile number 1, and this was the card that I got. This card is directly from the Oracle of Archangel Metatron, and as we can see, it says ancestors. And you can see this golden light that's coming through all the way back into these new generations here with the babies and the woman who is pregnant. So right off the bat, we know that we're dealing with ancestral energy, ancestral karma, gifts that our ancestors are bringing for us. So when I pulled 3 cards regarding past influences, I got the 8 of Swords in reverse. So this is already telling me that we're dealing with thought patterns, behavioral patterns, or certain karmic blocks that keep us from being exactly who we are meant to be. And sometimes, we can't see the larger picture with things, so we think that these blocks or whatever difficulties that we're going through are directly related to us. But the truth is that there are ancestral karma that come from generations back. And they kind of like try to unravel themselves. Like if they're knots, let's say, they try to unravel themselves through the life that comes and that evolves. And certain spirits incarnate into certain family lines in order to help liberate these karmic blocks or these karmic knots. So what I'm hearing from this particular card is that pile 1 has been probably dealing with repetitive behavioral or mental patterns that they've been having difficulty healing or releasing or letting go. But the fact that this card is in reverse is telling me that we're getting to a point where we're actually being able to release these karmic patterns, or at least become aware of them and recognize that these patterns aren't just ours, right? They could be anything from like addiction, eating disorders, certain mental blocks, like our relationship with money. How do we view work? What's our connection to the land that we live on? Like all of these things are things that we carry into our DNA, right? And so this 8 of Swords here is telling me that we are entering a phase of awareness a phase of awareness that these burdens are not only ours to carry, and that there is going to be victory. There is going to be a sense of belonging that we find when we're able to release these patterns. I feel when I looked at this card, I just felt like a sense of coming home, a sense of surrounding ourselves with our true family, right? If we're talking about ancestors, right? Sometimes our ancestors are not directly blood related. We can have ancestors that are also from lineages of soul, contracts that we've made before, you know, to help awaken the world. And that is why a lot of us are awakening to our spiritual powers right now. So when I look at this card, it's kind of like a coming home to our family, our true family, whether that be selective, our friends, meeting new people that encourage us to live our highest path, or just coming home to ourselves, right? Being recognized, being validated, being victorious. However, that is directly related to what we're here to do. And so I find that particularly with COVID, lots of people have been kind of questioning, what is it that I'm here to do in the world? And as I mentioned before, lots of us are awakening to our true spiritual gifts. So I feel that perhaps lots of people in pile 1 have been questioning their relationship to money and to their work and what it is that they value ultimately, right? Because you know, what we spend money on, it indicates a lot of what we value and what we put our time and energy and effort into. So if you feel that you're at a job that no longer serves you, that's no longer serving your higher purpose, then that is part of your awakening process. And perhaps due to ancestral lineage and thought patterns, you thought that you had to carry on with this job. You thought that you had to work a certain way, that you had to do a 9 to 5, or that you had to be fill a certain role in order to fulfill expectations within your own family and ultimately within your own self. So that is the energy that I feel that is coming, you know, that's a past energy. When I asked Archangel Metatron, like, what are we dealing with now? We have the Two of Pentacles, which tells me that we're learning to balance like this old sense of self with a newer sense of self. We're writing these, you know, this can be a bit turbulent at times. And we're learning to fluctuate. We're learning to kind of hold paradoxes within one, right? So this Two of Pentacles is telling me, like, if you notice, the person in this card is looking more towards one pentacle than the other. So it's like, yeah, I still have these responsibilities that I have right now and I need to carry them out. However, I'm going to focus more of my energy on this one, on this new passion that's coming forward for me. And that, you know, is affirmed by the Two of Wands here. This is a planning stage, right? First, we have the Ace of Swords, which is the initial motivation, right? The Ace of Wands. And then here is, you know, this person has the world in its hands. So it's kind of like saying the world is our oyster. What is it that we're passionate about, right? Wands, fire is all about passion, creativity. So learning to navigate, you know, the world, the life that we were living before, and juggling all of our responsibilities while learning to cultivate what is this newfound passion and how can we project it into the world. Another card that was with the present circumstances was the Knight of Cups in reverse. And this one tells me perhaps that there's a lot of artists in this pile, perhaps lots of you who have creative endeavors. You could be painters, photographers, dancers. But most of all, I'm feeling for this card is that maybe there's a lack of commitment, right? It's like we keep on jumping from one thing that's exciting to the next instead of solidifying into what it is that we're truly passionate about. So a lot of us who are old souls carry many talents with us. And so those go awakening the more attuned we are to our genuine self. So I feel that what it's calling for specifically with the Two of Pentacles is what are we going to cultivate, right? We can't keep on jumping from one exciting thing to the next and, you know, kind of being superficial or like, you know, social butterflies in a certain sense. And what is it that we want to plan for our future? What is it that we're genuinely passionate about? So yeah, if we're coming from a place where we're releasing old mental blocks and patterns of our relationship to work and what we're here to do, and surrounding ourselves with people who are, kindred spirits, is then assessing, is going within and assessing, what is it that I want to juggle? What is it that I value? What are my priorities? Because once we have that assessment within, we're able to carry forward, right? And then I asked Archangel Metatron, what guidance is there for pile 1 as they continue? Like once they've already done this reassessment, once they've perhaps journaled or meditated over what it is that they want to focus on and, what they want to bring into the world, the guidance that I got was the Justice reverse. And automatically I thought we have to still break some contracts that we have. So I would suggest doing like guided meditations, with Archangel Metatron to be able to break these contracts that we have, balancing out karma that perhaps may be unbalanced within our ancestral lineage. I also got the 4 of Swords, which indicates a time of coming out of rest, right? Perhaps some of us have been isolated or fearful of what's to come if we were to actually take these steps into following our passions and what we're genuinely interested about, right? So coming out of this state of dormancy, a lot of mental dormancy because it's swords. So maybe conquering our fears is what's coming through for me. Conquering our fears and just taking those initial steps, taking those initial leaps, the leaps of faith, right? And another thing that was indicated with guidance is the 4 of Pentacles. And when I got this card for this specific reading, I'm just hearing stability. And not only stability, but sticking to what we know. If we see we have like this city going on back here. And so I feel that, for lots of people who live in cities, it's really easy to get distracted. It's really easy to get distracted with the mundane and everything that goes on every single day. And not, say like, hey, I don't want to be working this job. I'd rather be learning, whatever other passion that I have. So, staying true to ourselves, staying true to the messages that we're receiving, staying true to what it is that we want to cultivate, right? Because we have pentacles there. So it's very grounded, right? So being able to manifest and to stay focused on what it is that we want to bring forward. So I'm going to be pulling some additional oracle cards for further guidance. Dear Archangel Metatron, what further guidance is there for pile number 1? The Sovereign. The Sovereign. I love this card. Personally, it's one of my favorite ones of this deck because it speaks of sovereignty. It speaks of us remaining true to ourselves, of us, checking in with ourselves and being our own inner compass. But most importantly, it speaks of not giving our power away. It speaks of not constantly having to be validated by external circumstances in order to stand true and in our power with what is true for us, right? So I'm really feeling that with this card, right? Of recognizing when we're giving our power away to other people or to other circumstances, and perhaps not feeling victimized by life, and by acknowledging that, we are magicians. We are magicians and we have the ability to stay sovereign within our own power. Let's have another card for pile number 1, please. Surrender. So an element of surrender is being asked for right now. And I can completely see, like, perhaps also with this 4 of Pentacles, it can indicate like some level of anxiety. Some of us wanting to understand everything right now, right? Because we're still coming out of these mental blocks. We're still coming out of a state of anxiety. And perhaps we don't have the whole picture sorted out right now. It's like, well, I know that I want to move towards this, but I still have to deal with these responsibilities, right? How am I going to be able to do that? Like, you speak of everything may be very, very understandable on the spiritual realm, but how can I actually make it tangible? And so I feel that when these thoughts or when these feelings start to come up where everything just seems overwhelming, I feel that perhaps the best advice right now is to find a way to surrender. And surrender you know, lots of people speak about it like being a very passive thing, like just allowing ourselves to let go. But I, on the other hand, find that surrender is like an active thing. It's something that requires action, right? So when I feel myself feeling anxious about something, I have to remind myself that I'm in the flow and that there's a bigger picture that I can understand right now. And so, you know, something that works for me a lot is meditation, walks through nature, and specifically journaling. Journaling is super, super important because it just like gets all the clutter that I have in my head out onto paper, and I just remember that I can't see the bigger picture of things, and that I live in a universe where I trust, you know, I trust God to be able to make the best decisions for me. Let's put some more oracle cards. What further guidance is there for pile number 1? Flexibility. Yes, so I see us being able to ride the waves, right? To be able to ride the waves and allowing ourselves to be flexible in what it is that's coming in for us, allowing our plans to be flexible too, right? We don't have to have everything figured out right now. We have to allow ourselves to be flexible because, you know, a lot of the times we want to already know the outcome towards things, right? And allowing ourselves to know that journey is where the nectar is, right? The journey is where we weave the magic in. So we have to allow space to surrender, right? So that we can allow life to take over, and also our own free will. Our own free will. What further guidance is there for pile number 1? Courage. Yeah. Making these decisions, breaking generational karmas does require a lot of courage. Why? Because it requires looking in the mirror. It requires looking in the mirror and being like, okay, it's not my fault perhaps that I'm carrying these patterns, these behavioral patterns, because my mom passed it on to me, and it's a sickness that's within the family perhaps, or it's something that I don't identify with. I don't identify with my family. However, you know, we can't have control over that. So having the courage to be able to look at our behavioral patterns, look at where we can improve as people and make those changes is where our ancestral family starts to heal. Like, it just ripples back. So every positive decision you make, every positive choice you make, it ripples back into your ancestry line, and also it ripples out forward, right? Because you're also changing the destiny. You're changing the course of where the ancestral line is going to be going. Some further information or guidance for pile number 1 regarding these blocks. It says, receiving. Every day it becomes easier to receive the highest divine plan and to trust my inner guidance. So perhaps allowing ourselves to receive, allowing the messages to come through. Wow, look at that. You know, it has a sun right there. It has a bird. So allowing ourselves to truly receive, to truly be nurtured by nature, by our friends, by our loved ones. Further messages for pile number 1, please. True offering. It says, true offering takes what can be an unbearable cross and returns it to love. Yeah, so I even envision maybe pile 1's going to the forest and leaving offerings, or any park or anywhere in nature that you feel safe and comfortable. Maybe making an offering that's symbolic to the things that you're ready to release, that you no longer want to carry, things that you knew that perhaps, you know, also troubled your grandmother or your mother, or just things that are reoccurring in your life, patterns that are reoccurring in your life, and making a symbolic offering and offering it and saying like, I'm willing to work through these karmic patterns. I'm willing to work alongside with the ancestors that come from unconditional love and light, who are willing to help me work through these. So yeah, true offering and surrendering to the higher forces. Okay, so to finish off, I would like to choose from Ganesh. I chose Ganesh because I feel that it works well along the side of Archangel Metatron. Ganesh is known for helping us remove obstacles, right? And so that's, I think, you know, that's the starting card of this reading. So I feel that Ganesha could have some inspiration for us of how to work through and how to work with our ancestors. What guidance is there for pile number 1? Funnily enough, we got courage again. So the message of courage is coming in really, really strong. Tapping into that lion energy, perhaps doing some investigation of like Bastet or Sekhmet, or just lion energy in general. What does it mean to have courage? You know, if we look at the word courage, it's very similar to the word for heart in French, which I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to say it. But so what it refers to is that having courage comes a lot from the heart area, right? So it's like staying true to ourselves, staying true to our heart, not being swayed by external circumstances. And embrace. You know, it's funny because we started off with a card of the ancestors that also has, you know, people embracing others. So maybe it's like a perfect message of coming around full circle with saying, yes, we're doing all heavy work. We're all working through ancestral karma and patterns, but ultimately we're here to support each other. So the more we can find our kindred spirits, our kindred families, surround ourselves with them, and these people will naturally help your talents blossom and help you blossom. So being able to embrace ourselves, but also to embrace the people around us, and remember that everything is full of love and we just have to open ourselves to receive it. So I want to thank Archangel Metatron for these messages for pile number 1. I really hope it resonated. If it did, subscribe to my channel and leave a comment if you would like to, and I'll see you next time. Hi, pile number 2. If you chose this gold mica, this is your reading. So I asked Archangel Metatron what the overall theme was for pile number 2. And the card that I got from the Archangel Metatron's oracle deck is boundaries. So we can see that there's a green hedge there, and there's a key that is being gifted to us every single day. And with that key, and by providing and by setting up our clear boundaries, we are able to receive some sort of illumination. So right off the bat, we already know that pile number 2 is related to relationships and where we give our power away, right? Where is it that, because, you know, relationships are always a dynamic exchange of power, right? Power in its truest sense of form. So every single day that we wake up, we could intentionally set what our boundaries are, you know, where it is that we are willing to show up for others, because the most important part is showing up for ourselves, right? So pile number 2, we're talking about boundaries. So then I asked Archangel Metatron, okay, we know this is about relationships. Could you give me a little bit of information of like where this is coming from? Funnily enough, the first card I got was a 3 of Swords in reverse. So it's telling me that a lot of people in pile number 2 are healing their hearts, right? They probably just went through a breakup, or they are learning how to heal themselves is what I feel. It's like we are allowing ourselves to take out these swords out of our heart and stop creating repetitive patterns in our circumstances that lead us to feeling like we're wounded. I'm hearing that perhaps, like most of us, perhaps we're retelling stories to ourselves, stories of abandonment, stories of how somebody betrayed us, stories of how we can't trust anybody but ourselves. But inside, we're still yearning for intimacy. We're still yearning for connection, because that is our natural state of being. Like we're seeking love, and we want to seek to give love and to have that exchange, right? So I feel that lots of people in pile number 2 are not only coming through from a breakup, but I feel that it's just like a long history of a healing heart, and that this heart is on the precipice of being able to have a breakthrough. We have the Knight of Cups in reversed, which is also telling us that it may have to do with romantic relationships, right? Perhaps somebody seeking for love in the places that it's maybe not the best places. Sometimes when this card comes up reversed, I feel like there's a certain level of superficiality that comes to it, like a surface level, like maybe an inability to go deep, an inability to actually be true, to be vulnerable, right? So this could be on your case, or it could be that you were perhaps seeking relationships with people who weren't emotionally available and who were willing to step up to the plate to have a healthy relationship with you. This is the third card that came up for the past, and it's telling me that perhaps we're not seeing the gifts that come with these relationships, or perhaps the opportunities for healing. So it's funny how, lots of people who, have a tendency of attracting people who are emotionally unavailable are actually emotionally unavailable themselves, right? So I feel that perhaps, the universe, source, has been sending people to you who maybe have the same wounds, and through these similar wounds you're able to work through these things, right? And so this is telling me this is what has happened. We're definitely going on a journey of healing our hearts, but perhaps the medicine here is with the boundaries that we set. Like, where is it that we're giving our power away in these relationships, right? So then I asked Archangel Metatron, like, what is the present influence, or what is the present circumstance with pile number 2? And I got the 2 of Wands, which already tells me like, oh, there's a new dawn. I feel like there's a new dawn. I feel like it's morning time here. I feel that there's a passion, and we're already looking towards the world. I'm even seeing maybe perhaps some online dating, opening our horizons of what we think a partner should be, or what it is that we're looking for. Opening ourselves to new social circles, but just still in this planning phase. Like, we're still not completely ready to get out there, or we really want to get out there, but we're still in this planning phase. But definitely the passion and the motivation to do so is there. The second card that I got for the present circumstance is the Sun, and I feel like I'm always drawn to the child in this card. So it's like having this playful attitude, like this playful approach towards relationships. And maybe it's asking us to heal these old wounds that probably come from childhood trauma, and approaching them with a new light, illumination, allowing ourselves to bask in the sun, and see these new people who come into our lives with a different light, changing the way that we perceive things, right? And the third card I got was the Magician reversed. And so I was trying to understand how is it that we have the Magician reversed with such positive cards like the 2 of Wands and the Sun. And what I heard was that we're giving our power away, right? Or we're not even recognizing the power and the strength that we have. The Magician is somebody who is, understands that they're a conduit for universal energy and love here on earth, right? We're marrying heaven on earth. And so in reverse, it's telling me that perhaps sometimes we feel we're destined, or we're fated towards relationships that are not gonna fulfill us. Or, we start a relationship with somebody new and we don't know where the boundaries are. And so our past programming, you know, we bring it into our present circumstances instead of just recognizing that we are the magician, right? And that whatever it is that we bring into a new relationship is what we're going to weave into it. And so the healing is called for there to release these past pains, right? This past seeking for love without any depths, and recognizing the new opportunities that we have, right? Seeing things in a new light, allowing ourselves to have a childlike, you know, approach towards things, allowing the world to be our oyster, and with these new passions and motivations that we have, and recognizing that we can weave this into our present, right? We're the ones who are constantly weaving our reality into manifestation. So I feel that that's like what's happening right now. Perhaps we're awakening right now to our power and being like, why is it that this pattern keeps on happening? Perhaps it's something within myself and not so much with other people. And so I asked Archangel Metatron for some further guidance for pile number 3, and I got the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords is great because it's telling me that this clarity is going to come. You know, I feel it very related to the sun, right? This sense of illumination, this breakthrough of what it is that is keeping us captive. What it is that's keeping us captive in these mental thought patterns of, you know, I'm going to get heartbroken. I'm going to be abandoned. You know, all men are this way. All women are this way. This is going to end up this way. I need to know the answers now, right? And so having this clarity, and, you know, I also see this crown here with these wreaths, like saying we're going to be victorious. We're going to be victorious about this. And we just need to perhaps go in and assess what it is that we value, what it is that we want to carry forward into our life. The second card I got was the Emperor in reverse. And what I heard with this message is perhaps some of us have more of a masculine approach towards our relationships, right? The Emperor is somebody who knows exactly what he wants and how he wants it, and he is motivated and he is disciplined to be able to get what he wants. It's a very fatherly, very yang energy. So you know, with the boundaries, right? So it could speak to two things, perhaps. It could speak to us being able to let go, to surrender a little bit more, and not having such a masculine approach to the point where it suffocates our relationships or it stifles the growth, right? You know, allowing space, you know, channeling in more of that feminine energy to allow things to take place and things to weave with time. Or it could also speak to us not setting the boundaries that we need, right? And so, you know, whenever we're starting a relationship, either with a friend or with a romantic partner, you know, the initial phases are so important because that's when we're letting them know how to communicate with us, right? We're letting them know what is important to us, how we want to be spoken to. And so perhaps some of us, we need to take more of this Emperor energy, this yang energy in our relationships, and setting the boundaries that we need to. And then the last guidance card is the Page of Swords. And for me, it's all about communication, right? How are we communicating? We are still kind of young in this stage of communication, and we're still learning to use this big sword, right? We have these like winds that are coming to teach us these lessons. So perhaps, you know, learning to set our boundaries, learning to communicate our boundaries in a way that is not so stern, in a way that benefits everybody, so that we can have this mental clarity, so that we know where the lines are drawn for everybody involved. So yeah, the theme of boundaries is very clear here, basically saying, you know, we're coming from a past where we've been hurt. We're coming from a past where we're reweaving these old patterns into our present, right? But there is illumination, there is maybe a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity with the new things that are coming in. Most importantly, the magician comes to remind us that we have the power to weave whatever we want to make, right? We're not doomed to our past behaviors or to our past relationships. How can we see things in a different light? How can we have that mental clarity of how we want to move forward with our relationships, with new forms of communication? Maybe taking a class on nonviolent communication and being able to set these boundaries in a way that is not so tangent, right? Not so aggressive. Or for other people, it could be setting these boundaries stronger and sticking to them, right? Learning to walk away from circumstances when our boundaries are not being respected. So I'm going to pull some additional oracle cards. Dear Archangel Metatron, what further guidance is there for pile number 2? We have the wilding. The wilding. So if we see these 2 swords again, right? There's lots of sword energy coming in here. Lots of air, lots of mental agility, right? So the wilding speaks of us being able to tap into that part of ourselves that isn't confined by the societal structures, by what we think that we should be in relationships, or the way that we think that people should act towards us, but really going into ourselves and assessing, what is it that's truly of value to me? Where am I giving away my power and my communication in ways that are not benefiting everybody who's involved, and primarily me, right? Where am I not setting my boundaries that I need in order to have healthy relationships with others? Further messages for pile number 2, please. Reclaim. Yeah, so I feel that for a lot of people in pile number 2, it's reclaiming our power. It's us coming back to our sovereignty. It's us coming back to that wild place within us that says, no, I'm angry, and I'm going to be able to express this anger in a way that's healthy. I'm going to be able to reclaim my power within my relationships. You know, I'm feeling a lot of self-worth coming in, like perhaps with our past relationships and what we were healing, like we lost a sense of our self-worth, right? We felt a bit defeated, you know, even a bit just gloomy about it, to the point where we couldn't even see the gifts that were coming in for us. So, you know, with this reclaiming card, I'm really feeling like us coming back and recognizing how worthy we are and how many gifts we bring into other people's lives. I'm even hearing that perhaps we should make like a letter, or, you know, just a list of all the positive qualities that you do have and that you bring into relationships, and just acknowledging that you are a gift in other people's lives, and being able to reclaim that power. Being able to reclaim that power is really, really important. What further messages are there for pile number 2? Purification. Purification. Wow. So I'm seeing, like, what I'm getting with sense of this is like a time of retreat, like a time to purify, because there's all of this white here with the snow. Like, I'm feeling like recognizing ourselves at our purest form. I'm sensing like even a detox of other people's opinions, of what other people have been telling us about ourselves, right? Because you know it's good to go to friends and to other people for advice, especially our friends who know us well, but still ultimately the advice that they give us is projections of their own understanding of life and of our circumstances. Ultimately, we are the only ones who understand our circumstances. So I feel that this purification card is asking for us to stay pure and maybe check our motivations. Why is it that I want to enter into this relationship? Why is it that I'm setting this boundary with this person, right? Further guidance for pile number 2, please. Whoa. Knowledge. And as you can see, she's like traveling on the clouds, but still rooted by the trees and just like floating there. I see pile number 2 perhaps gaining more insight into, you know, relationship dynamics. Maybe doing some more research about boundaries, about nonviolent communication, about, you know, how people connect, like if you're anxiously attached, or if you have a secure attachment styles, basically doing more knowledge and research around relationships. Because once you have more knowledge, you have the ability to act from a place of power, right? When we are acting upon past behaviors or past patterns, it's really difficult to break the cycle if we're not aware of them, right? So the more research we do into ourselves and our own behavioral patterns, I feel the easier it's going to be to heal our hearts ultimately, and to stop causing damage onto others too. Further guidance for pile number 2, please. Happiness. Yeah, so I'm sensing a lot of positive energy with this reading, because we started off with the 3 of Swords in reverse, which is telling me these swords are coming out of our hearts. We have arrived to a place in our life where we are allowing ourselves to actually heal. You know, they say that, you know, whenever the soul is ready to deal with the past pain and trauma that we've dealt with, it, you know, the memories and the emotions start to surface, because there's a certain intelligence that our soul has, and it knows when we're able to process it. And that's also why the experiences and the healing comes in layers. It doesn't all come at once, right? Because else it'd be too hard on our psyches, right? So I feel that, you know, allowing ourselves to be healing from these past traumas. Another positive thing, you know, happiness. We have the sun right here. I see a lot of clarity. I see a lot of illumination, a lot of warmth coming to pile number 2 regarding their boundaries. So I would really like to invite you to go into yourself, to go into your wild self, right? What is it that your true wild heart is yearning for? And let's reclaim that power that we have within ourselves, right? And let's strengthen ourselves with knowledge, right? Let's do some research about this. Let's get more information on what these behavioral patterns are, so that we can enter our next relationship in a more healthy manner. But most importantly is a relationship with ourselves, right? So every day we wake up, let's clearly set the intention of what boundaries we're going to have with others. Where is it that I'm overextending myself, perhaps because I feel that that's the way I'm going to be loved, or because I want to be loved by this specific person, right? So to finish off, I'm going to pull some cards of Ganesh. And I feel that Ganesh and Archangel Metatron work well, because they both remove obstacles. They have very high frequency, you know, power coming in. And I just feel that they complement each other. So the first for Ganesha is insight. So this is speaking a lot to our third eye, right? Perhaps doing some meditations with the third eye, or allowing ourselves to trust our intuition, right? Let's trust the information that's coming to us about certain people, about certain relationships, without getting lost with what's in front of us, right? Trusting our intuition, trusting the insights that come to us, you know, when we're daydreaming, when we're just, you know, walking, regarding our boundaries, regarding our relationships with others. What further guidance is there for pile number 2? Perseverance. So maybe this is coming for certain people in pile number 2 who feel a bit defeated when it comes to boundaries and relationships. Perhaps you feel like isolating. Perhaps you feel like it's not worth trying anymore. And this is a card saying, let's persevere, because we have, you know, sometimes I feel that we forget that we are medicine for people too, right? Especially for those we are healing our hearts, we are medicine for other people too. So when we're constantly in relationship with ourselves and with others, you know, what we bring to the table is medicine for others. And sometimes we have no idea the positive influence that we have on the people around us, right? So time it back in, I see that we started with with this boundaries card that has a key, and then we have, Ganesha's tusk here. And I see like we have the tools. We have the tools to unlock whatever it is that, these patterns that we're choosing to let go of. We have the keys to unlock our heart ultimately. This is an entire reading speaking about unlocking our hearts and allowing ourselves to be healed, allowing the love to come in, right? But in order to allow love to come in, we have to be able to protect ourselves and to set those boundaries so that we can be in right relationship. And I feel that that's the key word for this reading, is to be in right relationship. What does it mean for you to be in right relationship with yourself and to be in right relationship with others? Okay, pile number 2, I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you at the next video. Hi, pile number 3. If you chose this Shungite pyramid, this is your reading. So I asked Archangel Metatron what the overarching theme of this reading is for pile number 3, and the card I got from the Archangel Metatron Oracle deck is Duality. And so this card speaks of us being able to be more balanced in our approach towards life, right? Not fluctuating so drastically from one side to the other, being able to, because I hear that like we're trying to find answers towards things, like we're trying to make sense of the things that are happening to us in our lives, and that perhaps we have a tendency to be fluctuating, strongly from one side to the other, instead of allowing ourselves to understand that life is a mix. Life is a mix of the good and the bad, and the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, and being able to sail these different tides with a bit more grace, and perhaps looking within ourselves to see where it is that we can bring more balance into our lives, into our thought patterns, into our behavioral patterns. So this is a very strong image, the yin and yang image. And I feel that it's such a cliche image that we never really stop to observe it. We've seen it so many times in our life, but if we stop to look at it, we can observe, that there's always an element, a speck of one thing in the other, right? And so maybe stepping away from these like very harsh approach that we can have towards life in wanting everything to be all or nothing, right? So I asked Archangel Metatron what the past influence is for pile number 3. And right off the bat, we got the the King of Wands in reverse. So it's telling me that perhaps a lot of people in pile number 3 can tend to be impatient, can tend to have like a lot of fiery energy within them, being hasty, wanting things to go their way. It's either my way or the highway. Having an approach towards life where we try to exert our will too much onto things, right? The second card I got is the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. So it's telling me that, life always has a constant flux, right? The Wheel of Fortune is always going, right? But sometimes it can go in the other direction for us. And I feel that, for pile number 3s, like the universe, God, your guides are really encouraging you, and they're really wanting you to pull forward. But it could be that perhaps our hasty approaches or our impatient approaches towards life can sometimes be conflicting, and that is what is causing for things to not completely flow in the way that we want them to. And the third card I got is the Judgment, right? This is a card of awakening. This is a card of us awakening to what it is within ourselves that is actually causing this Wheel of Fortune to perhaps go backward for us, right? I've always liked to think that this is Archangel Gabriel here, with a trumpet here to give us a message, to give us a wake-up call. And funnily enough, Archangel Metatron is also associated with wake-up calls. So if any of you have been seeing like the 1111 or repetitive ones, that is a sign that Archangel Metatron's energy is constantly working with you to help wake you up to certain things, right? It's trying to call your attention. So what I feel here is that we have had a certain way of functioning, a certain approach that we've had towards life that perhaps hasn't worked for us well. I'm even sensing that perhaps some of you should look up at where Mars is in your chart, because Mars, you know, other than being very fiery, Mars speaks a lot of our will and the way that we move through life, right? And so I feel that if we're able to understand where Mars is in our chart, that's going to help us understand better how it is that we project our will onto life, and perhaps how we could maybe learn how to do that in a way where, you know, things are going to start functioning for us. How we can learn to ride these cosmic tides and waves in our best interest. And so I feel that perhaps some of us had a wake-up call. You know, perhaps some of us had been receiving messages or clues of saying like, hey, you know, this way has not been working for you. Let me help you. Let me help you find a new way to approach these life circumstances, or the way that you've been approaching things, right? So then I asked Archangel Metatron, what is the present circumstance for pile number 3? And I got the King of Pentacles. So it tells me that, and funnily enough, I also got the King of Cups, right? So lots of masculine energy coming in here, because we had the King of Wands back here. So it doesn't directly mean that, you know, that there's more male presence in pile number 3. I think that it's more speaking of this masculine energy within us. So if they're telling us that our past circumstances are coming from a very fiery approach that perhaps has not been functioning for us, what is being called into balance is to tap in more into these earthy and watery approaches, right? The King of Pentacles is someone who is abundant, who, he reigns with a lot of sovereignty, right? He reigns in a way that he understands that there is enough for everybody to give to everybody, right? He has a good relationship with himself, with material abundance, with feeling grounded inside of himself. And then we have the King of Cups, who is telling us that perhaps we're learning how to navigate our emotional waters better, learning to set our boundaries, and having just a larger dominance on our emotional spheres, right? Because we all have emotions. The thing is how we interact with these emotions, right? I was listening to a certain podcast, and it says, it's okay to spiral out of control, or to allow things to trigger us, or to get angry at certain things. But the thing is how long we allow ourselves to stay in these states, right? So I feel that the King of Wands in reverse is probably somebody who is temperamental and who reacts to things. But the King of Pentacles and of Cups is able to get himself out of these circumstances and be like, how long am I going to allow myself to stay in these states, and maybe bring some balance, right? Some elemental balance in our approach towards things. The third card I got is the Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles is somebody who teaches us patience, right? He teaches us how to work on things in a slow manner. He teaches us that hard work pays off, and that not everything has to give results right now, right? So again, lots of masculine energy coming through, and I feel that right now we're learning how to cultivate things within ourselves. We're learning how to tend our own gardens. We're learning, the importance of hard work, whether that be physical or within our own, personal progress and personal work within ourselves. And so then I asked, what is the major guidance that we have for pile number 3? And we got the Page of Wands in reverse. And so again, it's telling me, let's not be hasty, right? This is fire, right? So we're still learning how to play with fire. So I'd even like to encourage some of pile 3s investigate what it is, you know, the element of fire. If you want, you can look more into the alchemy of fire, right? Fire is something that can destroy. It is something that can burn, but it's also something that helps us construct, to warm, to give life to give earth, you know, to give balance into things, right? So allowing ourselves to not be hasty, right? And to not always want the answer towards things right now. Perhaps coming out of a state of like negligence is what I'm hearing, right? Allowing ourselves to have the patience here too, right? With the second card, we got the 8 of Wands in reverse. So these 3 cards very strongly speak of us being able to be patient, to be able to not revert back to our old behavioral patterns. And so if we tie it back to, you know, the initial message, which was of duality, I'm sensing that our pile 3s, you know, have a lot of zest for life. They really have a lot of zest for life, a lot of passion, perhaps lots of projects that you want to get going. Perhaps lots of people around you don't move at the pace that you want to move towards, right? And what is being called is to reflect on where it is that perhaps we're burning ourselves out. We have so much fire and motivation and passion to give that we're burning ourselves back because it's not being met in the right way, or we're not channeling this in the proper way. So, you know, bringing in the King of Cups and the King of Pentacles energy in to kind of mitigate that and ask ourselves, you know, how would these characters approach these situations or these circumstances in life? And not always being so dualistic, right? But being able to hold these paradoxes. Like, I can be this and this at the same time, and it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive, right? So I'm going to pull some additional oracle cards to see what further messages Archangel Metatron has for pile number 3. Dear Archangel Metatron, what further messages do you have for pile number 3? Play. This seems like a perfect antidote to perhaps a very hasty, impatient, temperamental approach towards things. Let's find our way to bring more play into life. How can we be more like the dolphins, right? How can we bring this energy of the dolphin in, which is also a very watery energy, obviously, right? So how can we bring more balance back into our lives? Let's play, right? What makes you feel joy? What is it that you consider to play? When was the last time you took some time to yourself or with friends to actually do something that you enjoy, that brings laughter into your life? What further guidance is there for pile number 3? Reflect. So it was years that many people were telling me, you know, you should really take time to meditate. People told me so many times that I should meditate, that I felt this rebellious part of myself not meditating. And then once I actually started doing it, I'm like, oh, this is what they were talking about. So now I can tell, like, if I go a day or 2 without meditating, I can feel it in my psyche, how, you know, how upset I can get over things. So I really feel that this card is calling for us, like, fine, okay, you don't have to sit down and meditate in a lotus position, but at least give yourself some time during the day to check in with yourself, and be like, where is it that I feel unbalanced right now? Am I giving too much time and energy towards a certain person, a certain situation, towards my work condition? And how can I bring balance back into my life, right? So reflection and play definitely are important ways to bring balance back into our lives. What further guidance is there for pile number 3? Patience. Yeah, that was like the overall, one of the key words with pile number 3 is patience, right? Let's allow ourselves to be able to control our fiery, you know, because fire is great. I love fire energy, right? We're full of passion, we're full of motivation, we want to get things going, but sometimes we have to learn that things take time, right? Things take time to cultivate, which is what the Knight of Pentacles is teaching us. patience, patience. You know, there's a saying in Spanish that says, paciencia es la madre de la ciencia. And it basically says, you know, patience is like the mother science, right? So, yeah, tapping into that patience and allowing it to blossom within us. Change. Definitely calling for change, right? There's something within us that's already changing, because this is in the past, right? So I feel that this wake-up call that's coming for you is already, there's something in you that's already transmuting, that's changing. There's a dragonfly there, right? Dragonfly again. So being able to travel through the worlds, being able to go through the different fluctuations of life. You know, the dragonfly is very good with the elements of air and of water, of course, right? So bringing in the dragonfly energy in order to help us mitigate and bring more balance into our lives. Embracing the change, embracing the wake-up calls. Healing. Allowing ourselves time to reflect and go into healing, right? We're approaching the winter season, so whether there's snow around you or not, you know, allowing ourselves that time to reflect, to hibernate, to really embrace what, you know, the darkness brings for us, right? Our days are shorter, our days are colder, and so allowing that energetic atmosphere to kind of temper our flame, you know, to temper our flame a little bit. What further guidance is there for pile number 3? Transformation, for sure. Like, pile number 3s are definitely going through something right now. And I feel that maybe that's why there's a sense of impatience. Maybe that's why, because we already feel that like there's something that's in us that is transforming. We feel that there's a new sense of self that's already blossoming, but it's not quite there yet. And I feel that those are the most difficult times, right? We're not quite our old selves, but we're not quite our new selves yet. And so we can feel just like impatient. Like, I want to get to the end result. I want to understand why I'm going through all the things I'm going through. And, you know, the journey is a nectar, right? The journey is a nectar. So allowing ourselves to stay in the present moment. And because, you know, while we're transforming, what we weave into our lives is going to ultimately dictate what we transform into. Right? So that's why the patience and the reflection are so important in these times. So to finish off, I'm going to pick from the deck of Ganesha. And I feel that Ganesha and Archangel Metatron work very well together because they help us remove obstacles, and they're like a very high frequency. So, dear Ganesha, what loving guidance do you have for pile number 3? Capacity to love. Capacity to love. So, you know, if we're talking about balance and dualities, and we're having, you know, maybe a hard, fiery, temperamental approach towards things, what can help mitigate this? Because let's think about it. If we're having a really strong approach towards things, is that approach coming from a place of love and trust, or is it coming from a place of fear? And the antidote to fear is love. So perhaps a good way to bring more balance into our lives is opening our capacity and our hearts to love. Are we expressing our love to others? Are we giving ourselves the love that we want to receive from others, right? Capacity to love. I'm really feeling that. Embrace. Again, another very loving card. Allowing ourselves to be embraced. I'm also feeling like this strong sense of just surrender, right? The strong sense of surrender. Surrendering to love, allowing ourselves to be loved. What further guidance is there for pile number 3? Clear your energy. Clear your energy. Perhaps some of us, you know, when I feel that like there's something that psychically or energetically needs to be cleared around me, I start with the physical realm sometimes, because everything that we have around us is a symbol of what's going on internally, right? So I feel that once I already start to approach things and I start to take things out of my room, out of my studio that no longer serves me, like energetically things start to clear up, right? So clearing our energy. Okay, so pile number 3, in general, I'm just seeing that, you know, the overall theme is duality and how we can bring more balance into our lives. And so I feel that like we're in this, you know, this middle zone, right? We're like between the veils of our former selves and who we are making ourselves to be, who we are weaving ourselves to be. And, you know, we have to remind ourselves that it is in the journey that we go manifesting, that we go weaving in what it is that we want to be. And they're really asking us to have patience, right? To hold our fire sometimes, you know, to reflect, to bring more play into our life, right? Where is it that we can bring more balance into our life and maybe reapproach ourselves, because the call is there. The call has been there. They're talking to us. They're letting us know what it is that needs to be transformed, So I feel really positive vibes coming for pile number 3 regarding whatever it is that you're choosing to become. And know that Archangel Metatron is always there to support you. I really always suggest looking for guided meditations of Archangel Metatron, or just reading more about him, you know. He was one of the archangels that walked this earth, so he understands very well what it is to be human. So, you know, always speak to Archangel Metatron from the heart, and I'm sure that he will assist you in any way that you need. So thank you, pile number 3. If you resonated with this reading, I highly suggest that you subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you on the next video.